Friends and family, welcome to another live broadcast brought to you by Premier's Turning Point, which your host, Bishop Dr. Uton Lang, and co-host, Overseer Franklin Williamson. We pray and hope that something that is being said today will bless your soul and spirit. Please take a quick moment to like and share this broadcast with your friends and family. Thank you again for joining us. Let's go into our live program.
Blessings, blessings, blessings one and all. It's a pleasure to be back with you. Of course, I'm Bishop Dr. Uton Lang, and we are listening to Premier's Turning Point. And we have an awesome lineup for you today. We're going to be talking on the topic of the ratio of men and women in churches. We thank God for bringing us through the election season, so we don't have to really focus on that as much. Hopefully, in a few weeks, we will know, definitely everything lined up with the presidency. But it seems like we had a great turnout, so I really want to thank all those people who went out and voted, because we had to make a big issue of that. And I'm glad to say there was an awesome turnout between mail-in and the regular voting. So that was very good. And so therefore, hopefully the people's choice will be, well known and be in the presidency. So we don't have to talk too much about that over the next couple of weeks. So we are getting ready to turn our attention on, the church in general, the things that are going on. And especially today, we wanted to look at, the reasons or if we could find out the reasons why it seems that there's a more predominance of women in churches, especially in the Christian church, than men. So we want everybody to make sure you chime in on this topic today. We'll be looking out for your comments as you share. And we want you to right now to just go on and share with all your friends, those on Facebook, on YouTube, and ask them to join and to like. And then on YouTube also to subscribe to our channel so that they can be notified when we're on. So we want you just to get ready. Of course, Bishop Dr. Lang, Overseer Franklin Williamson may be a little bit late getting on, but we're going to proceed. We have two awesome pastors on, and right now I'm going to step out of the way and have them introduce themselves. Of course, we'll start with ladies first, and to introduce yourself and just to share with the audience. So, Pastor Green, go ahead.
Grace and peace. God bless you tonight. I'm grateful to be in such great company. I was pulled into this suddenly, and it is exciting to be on and to be able to share with everyone. And so I look forward to the discussion tonight. Greetings to Bishop Lang and to all the other panelists that are on tonight. And we just look forward to an awesome time. God bless you.
Blessings, blessings. Pastor Green, just say, where you're pastoring and such alike, just so we can have an idea.
Oh, okay. So sorry. I am from the
Not a problem.
Gospel Tabernacle Church. Our branch is located at 725 Franklin Avenue in Brooklyn. I also work out of the main headquarters, which is at 2314 Snyder Avenue, also in Brooklyn.
Amen, amen. All right. So, Pastor Simpson, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Bishop Dr. Lang. Grace and peace to everyone. It's good to be asked to join this panel and with my distinguished colleagues, Pastor Williamson, Pastor Green, I'm Pastor Simpson. I am the senior pastor at the Faith Community Worship Center in Perth Amboy, that is in Middlesex County in New Jersey. I have been pastor now for 26 years, and I have been saved now for about 46 years. That's since 1974. And this topic that we will be exploring is one that is of particular interest to me. I've always wanted to delve deeper into it. And I really look forward to us having exploring the topic and just at the end, really, which is going to be an ongoing discussion, just to see how we can implement changes. There's no use discussing without a goal towards implementing a change. So I look forward to this. So thanks again, Bishop Dr. Lang.
Blessings, blessings. And I see Overseer has joined us, so we let him chime in and not necessarily have to introduce himself or say what's going on. I think he has even a function today, but let's hear from him.
Bless you, Pastor Simpson. Bless you, Pastor Cynthia Green. Thank you both for joining the panel, and to Dr. Ling. Yes, we have this topic, and I think it's really a very important topic. And this may just be one of many series looking at the role of men, or the absenteeism of men in our churches. And we want to look at what are the root causes. We want to look at the impact that creates in our ministries, and also maybe look at our style of leadership, right? To see if these are some of the reason why we don't have a large number of men. And one of the big impacts is, healthy marriages, right? A lot of sisters are still single. Marriages right now are being looked at as something negative when the rate is 52%. Who's going to invest in 52%? You wouldn't do that in the stock market. You wouldn't do that in any kind of matriculated course. 52%, that's failing. But we do ask folks to step out of faith in 52%. So I'm looking forward to the fruitful discussion from both our panelists here this evening. Thank you.
All right, so we're really excited about the topic, and as all the pastors are saying, this is something that has been very interesting to consider as to the reasons why. So I think we're going to start off and just saying, maybe just we could just say what is going on in our present congregations, and if any reasons or any ideas we have, and then we'll kind of put together. So at Premier Family Life, just as everywhere else, we do have a predominance of women. Would say about two, probably 3 to 2, when you look at the average. And I think one of the things that I think is one of the reasons, especially in the older population, probably over 60s, 70s, definitely we see a lot of men die earlier. So we have that part of it is skewed a little bit, but I think when we talk, we may have to look at a different age group. But on the older age group, I find that's one of the issue is, we have a lot of more widows, in that group. And therefore, there's a little bit more predominance of women. As you go down the other age groups, we see the same thing that is plaguing the whole, nation, the whole world is we see there's a lot of single mothers raising children because of various reasons. And I think we see some of the same thing in the church. But I think it'd be really interesting to see what else we can come up with. So that's we can go to Overseer next and then down the line. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yes. Yeah, just to talk about my local assembly,
Mm-hmm.
I think the ratio is much higher. I think maybe 1 to 5. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
1 to 5. And
Mm-hmm.
when I look at the leadership roles, look at my deacons, we have a men's ministry, and pretty much the men, our Christian education ministry is led by a woman. Our marriage and single ministry led by women. Our youth department led by women. Our pantry, women. Our prayer ministry, I got a brother leading that. Our choirs, well, for the men choir, the men. But it seems where we divide the church on gender is where you find the leadership by gender. And most of the other areas are led by women. Now, You could say, Pastor, why is that? When we look at the availability of the resource and talent, and those who are there are the women. So we have a problem with, use a term in our regular vernacular, pipeline. Our pipeline is not filled with men, it's filled with women. So
Mhm.
we got a lot of work to do as pastors. So that's kind of what my church look like. And I'm not here to bash women. If your
Nope.
church have no women, please don't invite me. I'm not gonna come, because if it had not been for those ladies who rose up early in the morning, went to the tomb to spice the Savior and tell the disciples, "Come, he is risen," then today we wouldn't have the gospel. So ladies play a very integral role. So ladies, those who are listening, I don't want you to tune out or change the channel. I'd like you to stay engaged, okay? Because we're trying to see how we can ensure that there's men in the ministry that can be great husbands, great fathers. Thank you, Bishop.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, we're not, putting our ladies down. I mean, if we did have them, we would not have a lot of the things going. So we really wanted them to stay strong. And actually, I would like to hear from some of the ladies as to maybe some pointers. What do they think we can do? What's the cause? So they may have some insight as well. So as we go on further on, hopefully we'll hear from some of them. All right, Pastor Simpson.
Yeah. So the ratio in our church is pretty much representative of the broader community. And
Hmm.
the broader community is not just up, as we would say, like Precious Faith, the Pentecostal churches. It is Christianity in general. There has been over centuries now, actually, an exodus of men from churches, and I like to look at data and studies to give me an idea of what's going on, and what I've come up with. Um, I think it's Leon Pottles who's written a book, The Church Impotent, and in 1936. He gave like a breakdown in different religious affiliation, Roman Catholics, Lutheran, Mennonites, Pentecostals, and Christian Scientists. And in 1936, right, I'm not going to go through these numbers because there are many, and, I can provide a reference after, but it was
Yeah.
in Roman Catholics, probably 1 to 1, so it was like 50% each. Lutherans are around the same. Mennonites, Pentecostals was between 1.7 to 2, which means that's about 66% of the church was comprised women and 33 men. That was in 1936. But even in centuries before, they have been seeing that men really have not been attracted to churches. Now, it's interesting that in 1952, that percentage, it would be like about 53% female, 47% male, and just to come down in 1990, that was 1952. 1992, 43% men were attending church, but by 1996, it's only 28%. That was of the church is comprised men, and it is not unusual, especially in the black church, to see that it's a 1 in 7. So to me, that's like about 10% of our churches is really men, which is probably what I see generally. I've been, as I said, saved now for 46 years, and that's what I've been seeing. Probably about 10% of the church comprise men. What is interesting, though, is that, and it's changing, but most of our churches, the leadership are men, but the pew
Hmm.
um, doesn't reflect that. It reflects that there's predominantly women And you know, we need to go, you know, there are several things that we could go into, you know, reasons just to explore, to discuss, to see why that's the case and what we can do to change that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll come around for the reasons. Pastor Green,
Yeah.
if you could just share with us, you know, what's the ratio in your assembly and what are your thoughts about why?
Okay, I'll just speak about 725 Franklin Avenue. However, perhaps in the end, I could say something of our previous ministry under Bishop Green. Presently at 725 Franklin Avenue, it says if the women outnumber the men 10-1. And we try to create a lot of programs where the men would show interest and want to come out. But as of yet, nothing really catches as we would have it to. So what I did once was to invite a Seventh-day Adventist friend because I was very curious why their fellowship have so many men. I went to a concert and I fellowship with some of them, the Adventist men, and on Sabbath, they're pretty much there. The congregation is filled with the men. So I invited this friend of mine, Seventh-day Adventist, to come and have a talk with our men to find out what could we do to attract more men in our congregation. And one of the things that he shared with us is that they have more leisure time. The men of their faith share more leisure time together. They gather for rap sessions. They go bowling. They just do more things together as men. And so as a result, they attract a lot more, not just the senior men, but also the younger men. And something else, the men feel as if they need a sense of purpose. They don't just want to be coming and sitting in worship or standing in worship. They're wanting to be occupied in meaningful ways. And so a lot of our congregations are female dominant. And because of that, I think a lot of the men tend to shy away. Amongst us, there's not a lot of men, but the men who are there, they are very active. And as a result, we can actually count on them coming and supporting whatever programs are in order. So back in Bishop's days, I think men admire this masculine drive, this masculine push. So wherever he was, even if he didn't invite them to come and do anything, they would just show up to be there, just to be in his company. And as a result, he had a very large following of men of all ages, younger men. There's Pastor Franklin, he's one of them. And they used to flock him. If he was just barely there to do tiling, even the unsaved men would show up. So I think what it is that men are looking for strong masculine leadership. purpose-driven leadership. They want to feel belonged and want to feel like they're not just there, but they have things to do. They're a part of. And so back in Bishop Green's days, there wasn't any want or lack of men. And I remember too, one of the things that attracted the men is that he would challenge them like, I need some men. I need men to drive the programs that I'm doing. And as a result, even if they were not qualified educational wise or even gifted or talented, but they would be there in the mix because they knew that somewhere along the line, somebody was going to identify them and say, you are of use, and I'll start you off with small things or whatever it is that you're capable of doing and allow you to work yourself up into higher ranks, if you will. Okay, so that's as much as I can say at this point. Perhaps further on, I'll be able to put in some other points, but for now, yeah.
Okay. Overseer, you could pick up on that since you know some of what she's talking about there, and maybe we can, glean on some of that.
Yes, I can address that. I think, and I was really talking about the late Bishop Samuel Green, and his ministry really had a high population of men. He was a planter of churches, and his ministry was the feeder. Now, when I look today at most of the Pentecostal churches, I'm going to be honest with you, they came through his ministry, and they are great bishops today, and he took pride in that. One of the things he did, he mentored. He was a great mentor to the young men, and I think we have lacked the mentorship programs. He also created a platform for you to strive. He wasn't intimidated. He was comfortable in his skin. May not have had the highest education, but that didn't stop him. He had the vision, and that's all we needed to know. He had the vision. So it's a matter of the leader investing in the men and also assigning the men with tasks. Men not going to just sit and enjoy a 2 hour of praise and dance. That's not what the man would like to do. So look around your church. Okay, building maintenance. You're going to take care of the building. So not everybody's going to be back behind the pulpit, right? There are other ministries where men can be gainfully employed. So yes, I think that it's a testament. And also, let me add this piece. He took care of the needs of men. You won't be in that church as a man underemployed or unemployed. He would make sure that he would go to you at job interviews. He will get on the train, get on the bus. He would pay your fare. So he was involved in the welfare of the men. I remember when he sent me to the Bronx to pastor, and he said, hey, did you get your marriage license yet? I said, Bishop, no. He said, okay, meet me here. That was at the Supreme Court in the Bronx. And he took care of all of that. I mean, he was so much in a servant of God, ensuring that the people of God, especially the men, were qualified and were prepared for ministry. And I think that's what garnished and caused men to flock him.
So I think what we're hearing from that, and this, one thing we can clean on is that we need to make the men feel involved. We need to, be supportive, more like a camaraderie group that they have to fall back on, maybe events and functions that geared around them, to give them a sense of purpose. Is probably one thing that I'm hearing, out of that.
Yes.
Pastor Simpson, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I certainly agree that if you have a purpose-driven ministry, as Pastor Green mentioned, um, that it's very attractive for men. Men want to feel, everyone, but we're talking about men, want to feel actualized. They want to have a sense of purpose, a sense of direction. Men love to be taught. They love to be mentored in such a way, and I I I see that um, churches that will do that will tend to attract more men, or just certain things that we do generally in our churches,
Mm-hmm.
as our prior speakers have mentioned. I can recall um, that we've had events, and the events that is more laborious, heavy labor. I will see men from the community come in that I was like, who are these people? But they are attracted to things like that, right? So I certainly agree. But there are other things also, because we just can't always have events or enough events to have men come out all the time. Why are men not coming to our churches or to worship on a Sunday or every Sunday, right? Because most of the events we have, they're not typically on the day that we worship on a Sunday. Why are they not coming to church on a Sunday, um, or during the week? And I think we should also explore the mode of worship. Um, Certainly, our churches are predominantly women, and by virtue of that, the mode of worship tend to cater towards women. Um, uh, it's very emotive, very emotional. Um, if we were to sit back and listen to the songs that we sing, um, and songs that really cater to nurturing, to emotion, you know, to relationship, um, and how typically the churches also just perceive Jesus. The bride, um, he is, the church is the bride of Christ, but even more than the church, each individual is considered the bride of Christ. And so uh, men are coming and they're feeling that they, the individual person is the bride of Christ. And what does that mean? You are, safe in the arms of God. And even though, we're talking about God, but subconsciously, men are seeing this kind of emotional expression towards God or Jesus, who we perceive as another man. So we have to explore what that is doing. The songs that we sing, right? Uh, the messages that um, we deliver, where I want to argue that men are more cognitive. They like to think, they like to be taught, they like to sit down, less emotion and more, let's, more visual. Men are more visual. So it's just like when Jesus in his teaching, or his interaction while he was in his ministry, he used different visual things, give me a coin, and there was a message from that coin. Or he was walking in the field and he plucked the wheat, the corn, and they express that. Or walking on water, so things that are visual. And I have had experiences, my delivery is not always the same. Sometimes I get into a teaching where I use a projector, or I project, and I teach with visual. Sometimes I come in with certain objects or bring an object in and I make it more very visual. And those times when I do that, I can tell you almost invariably that the men who are in church would become more involved, and they would come back to tell me how well they received that. So men are more vigilant. So we have to look at the mode of worship, even the songs that we want our men to sing. I could even go to say even the decor of our churches. So these are different things that I would like for us to explore too. In my search, I'm seeing that there's just multi factors why I can get my men to special events, but I need to be able to get them out on a weekly basis to come out to worship. And what is hindering that? Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. I think it's very interesting when you think about it. And you're right, it's really a multifaceted reasoning. Some of them is just men are men, and their needs are a little bit different. And you're right, we have to really start thinking: are we reaching out to them, and meeting, touching off their interests, the way we're presenting, the way we're acting, the roles that we give them. And you're right, the church, is, we have to rethink what we're doing to see how can we best reach out. I think one of the place that I see is, and this is in general, and it may be a making a general statement, but I find that even the men, it's harder for men to commit, to various things, even in a marriage, even, that's why for a lot of the time men get married a lot older, even if you do that study, there's some studies on that. And a couple of reasons why that is, but commitment is a little bit more difficult for men to make. So even committing to Christ and committing to a particular work is maybe one of the issues that we're dealing with as well. Now, I wanted, before we move on, at one point, I did look up some stats as well, and actually it was interesting. And so now I'm going out of Christianity, but think about it. Some other religions are predominantly men. And so I think we could glean some stuff from them, because if you look at the studies, you see I look one of the Muslims, for example.
Muslim.
They have there's like 65% men to 35% women. Also, the another group is the Hindu, about 62% men to 38% women. And there was another big group, the Orthodox, even Orthodox Christian was more even. And then there's so there's various groups that, and so my thought was, what are some of the differences between those group and Christianity and Christian men that would make men flock to them more. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well,
I think you're muted, Overseer. So go ahead, Pastor Green.
yes, sir. As I said before, meeting with this Seventh-day Adventist gentleman, men love strong leadership, and they love things being accomplished. They don't want to hear about half-finished projects and things that are taking a long time to get done. They want movement. They want to be in something that, what I've heard over the years is they want to be in something that is moving, something that is making a difference. That, for example, in the community, the others can see that something is being accomplished. So if that is not being done, they lose interest very quickly. Okay, they don't want to hear that, oh, I'm going to purchase this piece of property. They want to be under somebody who's going to make it happen. or even if it doesn't come through on time, they want to see whatever it is needing to allow that thing to come to pass. They want to see actions moving forward in that area. I have 3 sons, and right now only one really goes to church, and the other 2, their complaint is that they want to be in something that is moving, that is accomplishing, that is making a difference. And they don't see that in the church. So as a result, why join something or why belong to something that is not producing? They don't just want to go to a place, as Pastor Simpson says, where we sing songs that are, I listened, if I can quote Bishop Holsworth from Jamaica. Bishop Holsworth said we sing a lot of songs like, I'm trying to remember the song. He touched me. He says that is a female song. He
That's right.
touched me. A man doesn't want to be singing for half an hour. He touched me, and things like that. They want to, as Pastor Simpson shared before, they want to be a part. They want movement. They want responsibilities. And I think a lot of it is due to the type of leadership that we have these days. A lot because there's a lot of women in church, pastors tend to lean on the women a lot. The women lead worship service. The women give the announcements. The women, they are the ones caring for the children. They're the youth leaders mostly. But back in Bishop's days, he grabbed the young men. Franklin was one of them. And I guess Franklin was youth leader for, I can't even name the number of years. And it's like Frankie said earlier, and excuse me not saying Overseer Williamson, because he got started from so young. And Bishop said to him, as long as you are out there, you're going to be Brother Frankie. You could become the bishop, but because he was mentored in such a way to be an overall person, to push the men, to push women's ministry, to push everything. Everybody, and this is one thing that is lacking too. And I know I might be just throwing a lot of stuff out there now. You have to be able to identify with people. Doesn't matter what category. You could be from Wall Street, you could be from the governor's office. You have to, the leader, the men have to be able to come down. And that was one thing about Bishop. He was able to just mingle with everyone. He was able to take off his bishop robe, and if they were cleaning the gutters, jump in there with them and even show them how to do it. And then he was able to leave them and say, okay, get it done. And it was going to get done. So men look for a lot of masculine drive, a lot of masculine push, which I feel is not there today. We need to work. We used to have a program at the church, and they used to do it at least once per year, where they gather all the young men together. And Bishop used to do that too. Gather all the young men together, and if it was in our living hall or in the church hall, he would start to teach them how to present a message, how to preach, how to conduct themselves over the pulpit so that when they did get a chance, they didn't have to feel embarrassed or bashful or whatever because they had some props from earlier, and time again that was repeated. The youngest of the youngest, they were brought into such sessions. And so that helped the men, that helped to attract them. It wasn't just the ladies, but he really deposited from they were as young as ever. I remember Elder Gale, and I'm sure that Pastor Simpson and you, Bishop Lang, knows Elder Gale. They started Elder Gale from children's church. And every Sunday, this group of children would go downstairs under the supervision of some teachers, public school teacher, social workers, whatever their civic duties were. But they would all go downstairs and they would have something that was similar to our own adult worship service. And those people would have them down there. Kevin was in that group. And young as he was, they started to call him the bishop of the children's church. And so much was being deposited in them from a young age that after they got to the age where they could be consecrated as ministers or whatever leadership position, it was much easier because they were being groomed from earlier on. So I believe that is lacking now, a lot of the grooming, a lot of the mentorship. And the other thing too is when they made mistakes, it wasn't called out and beat them over the head. It was like, you can do better. You can do it. You've got to do it. And with those type of incentives, if you will, they wanted to be a part. They want, oh my God, they wouldn't miss youth service. They wouldn't miss nothing because they just wanted to be there to receive, to be mentored, to be told of their potential, what they could do. And so I think these things are lacking a lot these days. And that's why we have such a huge drop in our Pentecostal circles. I wouldn't even say so much in our Christian circles, but in our Pentecostal circles, the drop is huge. But this is a good discussion tonight, and we can glean from it and help those that are coming on. I have a whole slew of young men, and I started up a little Zoom class just about a month ago, and I'm trying to grab them from the side, if you know what I mean, and to bring them in and say, come on, get involved. Young ladies, young men, get in here. You're not in the big open. You're not in front of 300 or 400 people, but this is a little space where you can feel comfortable. You can make your mistakes. You can be corrected, and you can grow from there. So I think we need, especially now in COVID, a lot of these little cell groups that we can try to rebuild confidence in leadership.
All right. Okay. Anybody wanted to add to that? I think Pastor Overseer is muted. Overseer, you're muted. Okay, someone let him know he's muted there for me. All right, so it's really interesting when you look though and see some of the things. Some of my research was, and I think goes along with some of the things that Pastor was saying, is that one of the thought is that, we have, over the years, one guy wrote a book, is Why Men Ain't Going to Church. And his main thought is that in the modern, says that is the modern feminization of the church that is driving men away. That was one of the thought. And I think we have heard some alluding to that in how we worship, how we preach, how we teach. And this young man, he argues that the church has wrapped the gospel in this man repellent package. I mean, he's had some strong words by presenting the church as a relational and nurturing congregation. And he thinks that this warm presentation of the church is alienating to more and more the goal-driven competitive men. So this is one of the themes that I'm kind of hearing from speaking to, from on the here. So I'm going to do a little bit more, even more research in that. And I think a couple people online were alluding to that we need more mentorship, and even especially for the young people, to also let them know it's okay, that they may run into problems, difficulties, but we need more mentorship just to kind of get everybody, up to speed. So I think there is some substance to this feminization of the churches, by virtue of the way we teach, the way we preach, the way we present. And that's something I think we can look further into. I know, Overseer, you were muted, so are you with us
Can
yet?
you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
All right. Beautiful. Yeah, there are many factors. To be quite frank, I'm thinking of doing my doctoral dissertation in this major problem. I've looked at the statistics, and when you look at statistics, you got to be careful and understand, what's your end sample, right? How many people are you pulling into your sample? Is it random? When we look at the Hindu and the Muslims, we also got to look at what role women play in the church, in their church. And we know women are pretty much not playing a dominant role. The men plays a dominant role. So in our church, we see women as equal. The Bible teaches neither male nor female. So it's not so much the gender, but it's so much the responsibility and role. So that plays in our numbers. But listening to all our panelists here, there are a couple of nuggets I want to leave that we need to do as pastors. One, we got to write a vision. Many churches are operating without a vision. And when you articulate that vision, men can run with that. Also, create a project-based church, okay? Create some milestones. As you said, what are we going to accomplish? Not just sit there week after week, month after month, year after year. They want to roll up their sleeves and make things happen. What are we doing for the community as a church? The men love to serve, and are we creating opportunities for them to serve? You mentioned that Bishop had always tapped into the young men. Yes, we have to get out of our comfort zone as pastors and reach down and pull up our young men and let them know that they are a rare species, but their talent and their gift will make room for them. And I will add this piece. There are a couple of things that the church does that don't attract men. For example, and I may get a lot of slack for this, on Super Bowl night, are you going to tell me you're going to have a night service? No. If you do, you should really make some adjustment to have it maybe in the lower fellowship hall, and maybe it's definitely the flat screen, and they're having some chicken wings, they're having popcorn, ice cream, and you're pulling the men together. We have to do church differently. We talk about the aesthetics, even the color of the paint that we put on the walls, lilac, pink. I mean, we got to find some neutral colors, the drapery. There's so many things that attract the women, and that's where we as leaders, as pastors, got to step back and look at how we are administrating the church. I think, to be quite frankly, we have a great part to play. There's a second part of the discussion is if the pastor is a female, do we see more men in church? Or if the pastor is a male, do we see more women? Let me say this to pastors, and I'm talking to myself. We find it much easier, just the way we are made up, to witness more to women than to men. The song we mentioned, He Touched Me. Again, if we teach our men that when we speak of Jesus, we're not speaking of the physical, but it's a spiritual touch. And men need to sing that song and don't feel that they're being violated. So we have a lot to do as leaders. Step back and see if we're also pulling the men closer in our circle. Jesus Christ chose 12 disciples. Yes, they were the Mary, they were Marthas, and they were very close. Without them, his ministry could not be viable, his ministry could not last. But the leadership role, from the foundation of the world, he created Adam first, then took from his side a rib. So they will be parallel alongside us. So pastors, we have a lot of work to do. And I'm looking at my local ministry, and thank God for the COVID. It allows us to rest, allows us to reflect. It allows us now to look at the ministry differently and see where we can create opportunities for our men to lead. And we don't have to have all the keys. Let's delegate some of these keys to some of these men, and we'd be surprised to see how our ministry grow. Because my biggest concern is sisters who are coming up in the ministry, 12, 13, 14, by the time they're 25, leaving college, they're looking for a good Christian husband. There is none in the church. So you know what they do? Let me date someone in college who is not saved with the hope that he will become a Christian. And most of the times, that is a lost cause. So I want to impress the burden on our pastors that we now really have to step back. There is no reason. There's no reason. I talk about one pastor, Pastor A.R. Bernard. He has a bike ministry. He does golf. My pastor over there, Pastor Nunes, he has a cricket club. You know, so there are things that we have to do to really let the men be a part of our ministry and thinking outside of the box. And many of us as pastors are not comfortable there. So that's it. That's my input on that.
Yeah, I think it's really all great because I think there's no one way to solve this or look at it. And I think it's time we're putting everything. But I definitely think there is some credence to, especially in the Pentecostal, the evangelical churches over the years. I think we
Yes.
have come in, and not that and don't get me wrong, we've become so religious, and more focused on that we don't look at the full big picture and see how are we going to reach out to the men, as well as the women. For example, one other writer I was reading, he says, when his question was, and I thought it was a good one, and he says, when was the last time you heard a sermon discussing the topic of work? And even
Right.
though you have a lot more women in the workforce, there's still 60% of the men are the breadwinners, when you look at it. And so, when last have we even, ventured into some of those topics as a way of, giving these men a feeling to be a part. So we really have to go back to the drawing board, I said. So whether the program, of course, the gospel message stays the same. You got to be saved, you got to be washed in the blood. But, how we go around then to pull it all together is really, what I think we got to be looking at. And I'm sure we're going to have to continue this topic. So I want, we're probably going to have most of our panelists to come back, but we're going to also do a little bit more research and see ways and things. I still think, that there is also an issue of commitment with men. I really, there's one of my thing, and from all the teaching, especially counseling, marriage counseling that I've done, and all this stuff, I've always run into that little issue, and I think that's just part of the DNA of how men are made, and so we have to see how we're going to speak to even that part. I think is going to be how creative we get with getting men to see Christ for who He is also going to go a long way in helping us to reach out to a lot more. So we're going to go around the room and for kind of last words for today. So we're going to
Yeah.
start with Pastor Simpson, then we're going to go to Pastor Green, then we'll go to Overseer, and then come back to me.
Yes. So thanks again. I think most people know the saying that says that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Um, and our churches, there is a real problem, a real concern, a real issue. And if we want to see change, we have to step back, evaluate, assess, and do something differently. And I've been thinking about this, and even so much now that we've been having this discourse, that I need to kind of reevaluate my church's mission statement. Should we come up with a mission statement, a vision, a statement that is going to be focused on um, bringing more men into our churches? Because the imbalance is real. The effect of the imbalance is real, as has been mentioned. Many of our sisters don't know what it is to experience a certain type level of relationship because the men are just not there. We don't have the mentors for our young men in the church. They don't see good role models, not enough of them. And just so much more. The community is impacted negatively by this, not just our churches, the homes are impacted. So it's a real concern. And I think it is not male versus female. It impact all of us equally, and we just need to step back, reevaluate, reassess, look at our vision statement and make the necessary adjustments. Thanks again.
Blessings. Pastor Green?
Bless you, bless you.
I think she may be frozen. Go to your Overseer. I think Pastor Green may be frozen at the moment.
All right, yes. Final words. We have a pandemic on our hands where we are not going and making deliberate forces to garnish men in the ministry. And I'm calling pastors to take up the challenge. Our mission for 2020, when we sang Happy New Year, was we need 50 men, 50 women, and 25 children. So far, we have baptized 10. Have we baptized any men? None yet. We have one young lad. And as Bishop mentioned, commitment. But I need to find out, what did Jesus do? And if I got to go into more studies, because the requirement for walking with the Lord is not one that should be taken lightly. And I believe men understand the weight of committing to Christ. And maybe because they take it seriously, they shrug the role. But I'd like to speak directly to men, to let them know that, especially the movement called Black Lives Matters. If the life really matters, we want men to pick up their role and come to know Jesus, build your family, leave a legacy, and create a family where there's one male, one female, and godly children. We will come back to this because we have just scratched the surface. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Yes. So we thank everybody for listening and joining us today. We'll definitely be reaching out to our panelists and maybe involve one or two more. So we want to really go into this topic over the next few weeks. And so, all those listening, invite all your friends. Also, we're sending your questions, your concerns, your ideas, and we hope to be able to come out of this, much stronger. I think one of the things that really excites me is, we're, trying to do something. That's really, we're trying to look at this, not just say, okay, that's how it is and throw our hands up, but we're looking now, how can we tackle this? Because listen, the Lord God is awesome. So we can look to him for direction, and then we got to listen and then put it all together. So God bless you. Hopefully everybody have a wonderful week. All right. And keep praying for our country, that everything will go smoothly over the next few months, and that everything will just be in order because God is able. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Love you all.
Turning Point family, what an awesome time we just had. To all our first-time guests, we truly appreciate you for joining our live broadcast. We would like to hear from you, so please send us your comments, questions, or testimonies of how this program has impacted your life. Our email address is info@pflmi.org. Finally, if you feel led at any time to give to this ministry, please visit us at pflmi.org and click on the tab for donations. You can also give via Cash App at $PFLMIORG. We're looking forward to meeting with you live on next week's program. Have a blessed and prosperous weekend.